Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a definitely not covered by your medical insurance edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party! I'm not covered.
It's out of network.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, scary!
Let's have a malpractice party. Woohoo!
Oh my gosh!
Dokey. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is going to be fun.
It's going to be educational.
Yes.
And entertaining.
It'll be
entertaining.
Fun.
We'll get to what we're talking about here, but first, let me introduce
Speaking
myself.
of entertaining, who are you?
Talking about Mr. Entertainment. I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry STROTHE.
And I'm James GONIS.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Oh, yes. Let's give a round of applause for James. Thanks for showing up. Really, it means the world to us. For this episode, we're going to do something new.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a whole new topic, and we've talked about doing this for a while.
Oh, good years.
We've been holding out for my dream guest, and finally the stars aligned, and his people talked to my people, and it's gonna happen. But the topic for this podcast is sinister surgeries and medical mayhem.
Sinister surgeries and medical mayhem.
Sinister surgeries and
it's
medical
surgery,
mayhem.
surgery,
Transplants.
medical mayhem.
Doctors, transplants,
Oh my
cutting,
eye! I'm
blood,
walking. What is this
fusions.
growth on my shoulder?
Lots of
Does that need a
gauze.
Band-Aid?
I've got a rash on my crotch. Well, maybe I don't know.
How did that guy you made from limbs get up and walk away? What? What's going on?
But Matt, it's like we've talked about this for ages, but you have said we need to find the perfect guest, someone who knows science, someone who knows medical stuff.
Absolutely. Well, our guest for this episode is a friend and former next door neighbor who has sat in our living room for cocktails and 16 millimeter films. Yeah. Cool. He is board certified in internal medicine, received a BA in psychology and a BS in biological sciences from Stanford University. Yes.
Get out.
Yes.
Ooh.
Got his MD from NYU School of Medicine. Right.
Cool.
And completed his residency training in internal medicine at CEDARS-SINAI Medical Center. Boom.
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
Who is this genius?
Yeah, now he practices in Oahu, Hawaii, and has an excellent website called The Traveling Doctor.
Who is this amazing genius guest?
Dr. Albert LIN.
Dr. Albert LIN.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my gosh.
LIN. As I
Doctor.
live and
Aloha.
breathe.
Hi.
As I live and breathe, because through your medical advice, I live and breathe.
I'm glad I can take some credit.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well,
Wait,
thank you so much for coming on.
When he lived next door to you,
course.
did he say,
Here we go.
hey, Matt, you should like, not eat so much fat there. You're putting on a little or something. Did he do stuff like that?
I was
Did
in
he go,
better shape then. I was in better shape.
Ah, you look the same. Exactly.
You charmer. Oh, guess who's back in
grease
my
the
will?
wheels.
oh my gosh.
But here, it's funny too, because I think when you were living there, Albert, there was a point where somehow something glass broke and went into the heel of my foot.
Ooh.
Now, rather than go to you, who might be able to help me, and I know you were very busy. You were always, doing your shifts and everything, and just, you had your own problems. But I decided I need to do surgery myself, and this is pre-YouTube.
Good idea.
So what I did, so here, tell me if you think this was okay. So what I did was this thing went right in and broke off.
Oof.
So it was like under the skin. So I had to
Right.
get to it. So what I did was I got Oragel and I stuffed Oragel into the wound and then put Oragel on some tweezers and went in there. Now it still hurt, but it was much better than what it was. And I dug around and at first I couldn't even get it, but then I finally found the edge. And after a couple tries, pulled this thing out. No
Wow.
emergency room. I was one less guy mucking up your emergency room.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Took a lot of initiative and
Yeah. I eventually
Chutzpah.
lost the foot, but
details.
the
Yeah.
wood one works fine. It's okay. Peg Leg Weinhold has made his mark.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, but enough of me and my medical misadventures. Let's talk about medical and surgery, situations in genre movies. And I know everybody has a list of stuff that they want to talk
Mhm.
about. Anybody have something right off the bat
Well, look,
that you want to talk about?
Look, the big one.
Here we
It's
go.
like the elephant in the room. Okay, Frankenstein,
Frank-
1931.
oh,
okay,
Frankenstein.
Sure.
Any,
All right,
any version of Frankenstein.
Any version of
Or it's
Frankenstein.
the concept
Okay,
of
yes.
the
Okay.
concept of grafting various body parts from different bodies to
Yeah.
make a single human and have that human live.
Okay, doctor. So
Wow.
So I've got this.
Why are you mad at explanations?
Okay, so
Jesus Christ.
so I've got this body, and it's still pretty fresh.
Okay.
And let's say it's got like it's got a little arm that I've attached to it and stuff, but it's not alive. But you attach all these electrodes and you have lightning, come down. That's a lot of power come in and
Wait a minute. Larry, you're getting ahead of yourself here because you're missing some of the details that are
Yes.
necessary.
How
Like,
the
these
process
are-
of how it's the steps that it takes before you get to that.
Yes, because this is not just one body part from a different person. We're talking about different body parts from different people.
Right.
Different
He basically
brains.
raids a graveyard, right?
Yes.
And he takes, yeah.
Yes.
So they're not that fresh.
Well, look, I was trying to give him a little softball here before we got
No,
to
you
the
don't have to.
brain stuff.
He's a doctor.
Okay.
We'll save the softballs for you.
Okay. All right.
Well, while we're on the subject, though,
Go, James.
Does anybody know why he had to use different body parts? Why couldn't he just resuscitate a corpse? Why did he have to sew together
That's a-
different parts?
That's a really good question.
Okay. Because I have an answer. Okay. If you recall,
Never mind, Albert.
the guy. No.
Larry's got this
It's not the
covered.
right
We're gonna
answer,
get to
but
the
it has an
doctor.
answer.
No,
Tell
we're
us-
gonna
tell
try.
us.
No,
What is
we
your
just want
dissertation? Give us.
I just want to set it up for the doctor as
Okay,
best we
sure,
can.
fine.
No, James asked a question. Okay, so the guy that was hanging there that they hung and they
Yeah.
just cut that
Yes,
guy down. Okay, perhaps he had like a short arm or something, and or his hand had a claw or something. And what they're
Claw,
trying
yeah.
to do is they're trying to get the freshest body parts that
Or
they
the
could
best part, the best,
Yes.
the best,
Best
condition
pieces
part
to make a
Mm.
perfect man.
right.
All right. So we've set the table for you. We've got this body, different body parts. Brain comes from somebody else, everything. And then lightning, electricity is the thing that supposedly gets this body back together. Now, is any of this plausible? Even a part of it?
But also thinking of
That-
when the original Frankenstein was written and what
Sure.
people knew about medicine at the
Yeah.
time.
Sure. I think it's at the time you could probably understand why a lot of people would think that could be possible. I mean, back in the day, they were having exhibitions of, surgery when medicine first started and surgical amphitheaters. I'm sure you've seen that in a few
Right.
shows. Yeah. And, it was very, almost looked like magic, almost looked like,
Right.
there were things that could be done that people thought were impossible. So, the idea of connecting different body parts and different organs together, even in that setting, it probably made sense why they thought it could happen. It, anatomically, all of those things can be done. So, arteries sewn together, limbs sewn together.
Right.
You see Frankenstein with the stitches and the knobs and, some of those things. But I think the major issue is related to the brain, really, right?
Oh, yeah.
How does the body move? A body moves because we will it to. We physically will our own body. We say we're gonna look this way or look that way or scratch our nose or whatever, and that all has to do with nerves and innervation. So that's my main sticking point. Electricity is great, and electricity is almost like a metaphor for what has to happen when neurons fire and move muscles and
Right.
move around.
And isn't like the early concept of like, I don't know when this first was experimented on, but when the thing with like the dead frog and you put electrodes to it, it moves its legs or its jump.
Ooh,
like when that started, that probably also that idea of like, it can actually not just a reflex action. People were thinking that actually brings life. Right.
Funny that you mentioned it. That was actually my first science sort of experiment when I was in high school before I was going to medical school.
No.
I was part of I forgot the doctor's name, but I basically was not Dr. Frankenstein. He was he looked, very nice guy. Where was he? It was in University of Stony Brook somewhere, and I was part of a program, and we had to sacrifice what we called frogs, and we would dissect out their pectoralis muscle, our chest muscles, what you would say is there, and we would plate out this frog muscle and put different types of electrolyte solutions and figure out what would make it work, what would make it not work, what would make it basically flinch, to control. But we would have to sacrifice these frogs, it was kind of traumatizing for me,
Did you get to eat them later? Or?
Oh no. Okay.
Oh, come on.
This is what you do. It's pretty bad. You grab the frog and you kind of whack it. You whack it on the side of a table. Yeah, you whack it on the side of a table. And this is way back,
Well,
then,
look, before we get any letters, I just want to say, look, if people go out fishing, you catch a fish, it's something very similar.
True.
So,
yes, that's true.
And you know where your beef comes from.
Right.
This is all for medical science.
It was before there was a frog Dr. Kevorkian. So
right.
ease them into the next world. Yeah. So.
Right.
Look, if I'm going to be used for scientific experiment, I'd rather be grabbed and just thrown against the table. Taking me
I'll keep that in mind.
But now we know, right, that that's simply a reflex action. It's not like right.
It's it has to do simply with the neurotransmitters that fire a neuronic charge, and it can be stimulated, yes, definitely, by electric charge and electric shocks. I mean, you may have seen even some of those like ab workout machine type things where people, put on things, and the easy way they kind of flex, flinch.
Right.
So muscles can move and flinch by an electric shock. It's just purposeful movement is where you get into prolonged purposeful movement is where you get into the problem.
Control of that.
Doctor, because it doesn't have blood pumping through it, it can't stay alive. You could be shocking that thing for like a week, but if it doesn't have blood going through it or oxygen, then it doesn't kind of wither or something? Or
yeah, it's all connected because a lot of people don't realize those. So you probably know that most of the major arteries and the heart and where they all feed and whatever, but a lot of people don't understand that pretty much it's a triad. It's a quartet or whatever. You basically you have the artery running with the vein, so the artery feeds whatever muscle or organ, and then the vein drains it. But going along with that, you have a nerve. The nerve is probably following the path. And then you have a lymphatic system too, which is a whole separate other issue. But the point is that if any of those things are not working, something is not really going to work in the system. Yeah.
Well, and then on top of it, you've got like blood types or organ rejection.
Yes. I mean, that is
problem
huge
right now that we have is, trying to get a pig heart to work in someone.
Right.
And your boss to take all these drugs, So I mean, that's just one thing. And then to actually have a brain be rejected. I mean, there's so much to go wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
I
so
like
much.
James' idea of just taking one body that's complete and trying to get that to come alive.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's make it easy for the doctor then. Okay. What if we go by what James said? All right. So, doctor, what we do is we find a dead body. Okay. And it's fresh.
Sure.
And so now what we want to do is we want to bring it back to life. So you throw the electricity on and zap it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That
it probably still won't work. You know, you can get a whole body. I mean,
No.
you would probably get more of the shock type. Again, you get those movies where you say like clear, boom, and the guy goes, you know, something. You get some flailing of limbs. You get something else. But that's the problem, is that brain death, heart death, the very sensitive organs, it happens very, very quickly, you know?
Right.
So we run into this problem actually a lot, you know, when we have drowning victims or people that go through, you know, some sort of prolonged CPR or whatever. The whole point of that fake CPR you see in the TV shows and the movies is to circulate the blood so you keep that electricity running and those neurons firing and doing anything. So you may not even pick it up. Even if you bring bodies back to life, which we do with CPR shocks, they won't really start, you know, moving around. They're usually on a ventilator or something. So they're sort of shocked, you know, in a state of shock for a while. And then you're basically crossing your fingers and you're like, wow, I wonder if this guy's going to start moving again, this man or woman, you know, this child, you know, God forbid. But, and even the CAT scans won't show you anything, you know, it'll look normal actually for the first maybe 48 hours or so. But then as time goes along and as it goes along and they're not moving, then you say, maybe we should get that CAT scan again, or maybe we should get an MRI, which is much better definition. And then you start to see the dreaded, what they call anoxic encephalopathy, which is a fancy way of saying brain death, basically because of loss of oxygen. And so that timetable starts immediately. That hourglass starts immediately of stuff dying and neurons dying.
And at this point in medical science, there's no way to reverse that.
There is no way. No, it's not. There are ways to prevent it. So, for example, the standard of care now is if you are found down and, you know, whatever, and you get brought back to life, you know, with CPR and what they call return to spontaneous circulation. If you ever take a CPR, you know, ACLS class, then the immediate thing is you're supposed to cool them down. What's called a hypothermic protocol in a lot of these hospitals. And you really try to get them to a point where a lot of these hospitals, they try to flush your body and pack it in with like really cold saline. They run it through your body.
Wow.
They even try to pack potentially, you know, your abdomen, your core, with the hope that that brain death, the neuronic death won't take, that it won't or it'll be prevented. Yeah, the joke is you're not really dead in medicine until you're warm and dead, is what they would say to.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right. So when you see also those movies where that little kid falls in the ice and is, you know, one of my, not to bring up stuff too early, but in like Abyss, Ed Harris, and she's really low down and she's cold. They have one helmet, they're sharing it, and and she's cold, but technically that could happen because she's cold and not really dead. She has to get brought back to life, and they shock her and warm her up and do the CPR. I mean, he does a bunch of like physical stuff and, you know, slaps her and things.
Yells at her.
It's not bad.
A lot of yelling.
A lot of yelling.
You never gave up on anything in your life. Now live.
Which
exactly.
Which apparently on the set was controversial because he was like really hit her hard. Like
wow. Did not know that.
Complained, I think. James Cameron just said, keep going.
But wasn't that set hard enough?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, wasn't that shoot hard enough?
Yes.
Like, really? Do you need
Surrounded by water.
Harris belting you?
Hey, my understanding is the cast and crew were all given a shirt afterwards saying, "I survived the James Cameron shoot of the Abyss."
I'm so happy you brought that up because you know what? That's a movie that some people don't like. I love that movie. I think.
Oh yeah, I like.
There's so much good stuff. Now, when it came to the liquid oxygen part, I know that there's. Is that something that actually exists?
Didn't they really do it with the mouse? I thought it was real.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that part. What was it? So what happened exactly with the liquid oxygen?
The idea is
water.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like the
right.
Fluid that when
right.
It's what you're breathing when you're a baby.
Oxygenated water that this mouse is able to breathe.
And so instead of filling a tank with air, when you go deep down in the water, they would fill this liquid stuff So you breathe that in.
Right.
And so you can go deeper, so you don't have that pressure.
Look,
Right.
I bought it. I bought
Yeah.
it. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
man.
I bought it too. To be honest, I have no idea if it exists. It makes sense
I
to me.
tried it.
But yeah.
Right. But it works well for the movie. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's just realistic enough.
Yeah.
that-
Yes. And those are in my mind, the best sort of things. I mean, with movies, medical mysteries and surgical stuff, it's the surgical part is the part that's always a little harder to buy. You know, when you get into physiology and medicine or whatever, as Matt mentioned, with stuff related to just like actual joining of limbs and joining of
right.
of neurons and nerves, that's the stuff that's much tougher.
Right.
That's the stuff that's really, really difficult.
Because doctor, isn't true. If you're going to cut my arm off here at an elbow and let's say cut off Matt's and put Matt's arm here, I mean, you would have to attach all his little tendons and all his little
everything.
And, And
it's not this chunk of meat and bone. Yeah, it's not. It's a lot. Yeah.
For a while, he'd look better, but.
People would say, Larry, your arm is shorter. But it's a damn good looking arm.
I don't know what happened to your arm, but
that's one of the also kind of like a trope in horror films too. Was like the idea that a person gets a grafted body part from somebody else, and that body part still retains like the personality of the person.
Right.
Oh,
There's a lot,
yeah.
Like Mad Love is a famous movie where
Sean.
a person's hands are grafted on, but it's the hands of a killer, and he starts to imagine he's the killer. That's a movie called Body Parts with Jeff Fahey. And
Jeff
the
Fahey.
hands of hands of
There's a Jessica Alba one with a hand too. Yeah, I remember that one.
There's a Korean one with eyes. Transplanted eyes.
Yeah.
Ooh,
The fanciful
that was remade too, right? With Uma Thurman or something? Or?
But which is a fanciful concept, but that gets into kind of almost like supernatural.
That's more supernatural.
Like if a person, to have a personality retained in a person's just hand or finger, you know.
Well, but I have a question for the doctor because I thought about that and I have it written down. Okay, so doctor, so let's say my arm gets cut off. And it just so happens, there's this evil criminal they just killed in the prison, and they cut off his arm and they bring it and they graft it onto my arm and say, "Oh my gosh, I've got an arm," and it looks a little funky. I have lots
of tattoos.
Well, yeah, yes. So I have a tattooed arm now, and let's say it moves and everything. Now, like Sean said, but it's sensitive, it's evil or something. Couldn't you, in your mind, think that I just got an arm from a deranged person, and psychologically you're thinking it's evil, and you actually make it do things? Is that a possibility?
I would think psychically and psychiatrically, who knows what could happen. I think it could be possible. Yeah. I mean, well, I think in that, like, what I call the phantom limb kind of thing. It's a very, you have a lot of these stories of people who have strokes or who have had, parts missing during surgery or after surgery, and then they still feel that part of the body and the leg, and they get very disturbed when it's not there, Right. It's almost like a nerve memory that happens, so in the opposite setting, if you suddenly, you had something that was not an arm and it didn't feel like your arm, it would probably really mess with your head. And who knows what you would act like, right. I would guess that psychiatrically you'd probably have a lot of issues with that really feeling like it was yours, even if all the nerves are connected up, even if they were all, whatever. I can imagine it's a very, very difficult process to go through if that happened, if you just woke up like that.
That's not the hand you were born with. It's
exactly
a stranger,
right.
And
exactly.
I just think that if you're already, look, there are enough reasons for people to go nuts. There are enough people who are, on the edge there. You give them someone else's arm. It was going to happen anyway, but the extra arm kind of got the ball rolling.
Right.
Sure.
And that also kind of plays into, to me, that also another popular thing in horror films is the idea of skin grafting.
Mhm.
There's a
Mm.
famous
Yes.
there's a famous horror film called Eyes Without a Face, where
Oh, yeah.
a doctor is trying to repair the damage of this woman's face, and so he's grafting
His
the
daughter's
entire
face.
the entire face of somebody
Wow.
else onto her, and but it doesn't take, or like eventually it rejects it, but like. And there's another movie called Adam Age Vampires. Same thing. He's trying to.
It's the same
he's
movie,
grafting-
basically, but with
yeah,
less
a
money.
lot of films deal with that. But now is that? I mean, skin grafting is
That
real,
is
though.
possible,
Like,
right?
How far?
Yeah.
can that come?
That's been done.
Yeah, skin grafting, and even stuff related to facial grafting can happen. Not on the level of like such a good detail that you would
right.
get like a Nicolas Cage and Face Off kind of
I was
thing,
just
but
thinking,
That's on
Yeah,
my
yeah,
list.
exactly.
That's
So-
on my
Yeah,
list.
right.
Right.
Hey, are you saying that can't happen?
Yes, he's saying that can't happen.
I'm
Come
saying that
on.
Theoretically, maybe.
Did you see
Cause-
the movie? It's so realistic when they do that.
Albert, I'm sorry.
Matt and I
I'm so
switched faces
sorry.
already. You don't even know.
right. I couldn't tell. Yeah, cosmetically, that's the problem. There's always something off, and once you get to those levels of the detail of the face, it's not just like
Right.
a skin graft on an arm or a leg or whatever. You're going even more detailed into the number of nerves you got to connect up, the ability to smile, the ability
Yeah.
to frown. Was it? It takes more muscles to
Sure.
to frown than smile, kind of thing. And like it's the control of everything, the microvasculature. So not just the big arteries, the big veins, the big nerves, the tiny ones that create all the detail. Plus all the rejection stuff that you're still talking about. that
Right.
Matt
You have to
mentioned.
take drugs
Yeah.
for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you have to.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think there was the woman who her face was ripped off by a chimp.
By a chimp. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
And they gave her, I think they gave her a facial graft, and it was basically just so she looks normal, like or
Right.
somewhat normal, so she can go out in
Right.
public and people don't
Right.
stare. Because before she really just had no
Right.
face.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
at
it
least
was
something's
mauled.
better than
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Well, look, as you explained it, I understand. I realize, look, if Disney has difficulty getting an animatronic figure to smile and it do its thing on the
Yeah,
Pirates of the Caribbean, then in real life and medical stuff, it must be very difficult, as you said.
Right.
Do a
Well,
smile.
Wait a minute now. You're on a track here that I find interesting, because now you've got prosthetic limbs that can be operated either, and you could tell me this, through nerves or muscles or whatever. So it works more like a regular hand than a fake arm.
Mhm.
But to do that maybe with a face, so you could actually put something, and it would have to be, I'm sure we're years from that, but a way that you could actually put a prosthetic face on someone.
Like a
and have it-
robotic face?
Ooh.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
and maybe put that skin over that. And so at least you're able to move it in a way that's maybe rudimentary, but it's, once again, it's better than nothing.
Right. Some of those, like what am I thinking of? Some of those like Mission Impossible type masks where they just kind of
Right.
make it and then just put it on, and then
Peel it off.
Tom Cruise is killing off like 10 different faces, and you're like,
Yeah.
is he even in the movie right now? It's just like
Nobody ever
deep-faking,
gets
yeah.
caught. Nobody. I gotta
Yeah,
take
yeah.
this thing off.
Well, and
Yeah.
what about bone structure? Doesn't that come
Yeah.
into play? It's like, wait, you look
Of
nothing
course.
like this person. Just
Right.
because you put on
Right.
a
Yeah.
rubber mask, you're going to look exactly like
Well,
them.
I always thought cleverly in the original Mission Impossible TV series in the 60s and 70s, they cleverly got around that at times, because you have Martin Landau, right, who's the master of disguise, right, or Leonard Nimoy sometimes, but they show a photo of the guy that Martin Landau is going to have to impersonate, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's Martin Landau.
That helps.
It's Martin
Wow.
Landau just with the beard.
Martin
You're gonna have to look like him. So of course,
We have a series of spies, a network that all look like you. Your mission?
That was like kind of a clever idea around it, I thought.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You've also got Seconds from the 60s, the John Frankenheimer
Yeah.
I'm
film.
so happy you brought that up.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Oh my
seen
gosh,
that, Albert?
James.
that's
No, I have not. Yeah, what-
complete reconstruction of somebody.
Oh, this is
Starring.
Rock Hudson.
Well, it's starring Rock Hudson, but he starts out being John Randolph, who's this sort of middle-aged,
Older, pudgy guy,
portly,
right.
pudgy guy. And then they turn him into Rock Hudson, face,
Yeah.
body, everything. It's like, how did that happen?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's really just explained as it's just extreme plastic surgery.
Yeah, and it's
So
it
they
has a
cut off
sci-fi tone
everything,
to
and
it.
you know.
Yeah, it's a science fiction element to it, really. 'cause
Yeah,
it is.
well, it's pure
Right.
fantasy, really. I mean,
Yeah, but
But at least-
it
but I-
works for that movie.
But I buy
Yeah.
that more because you can. I mean, the idea that you could take. We've seen all these people, you know, botched and everything, where you can do
Right.
anything you want to a
Botched
face.
plastic surgeries. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yes.
And you know,
Look
so
like a
I'm-
Barbie. Look like a
right, or look like a, I don't know,
A Ken?
frog person.
Yeah,
Frog
yeah.
person.
body modification. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it is possible that you could change someone's looks through surgery so drastically that they look nothing like what they used to look
Right.
like. You could use
Sure.
implants for muscles or whatever, you know, you can
Yeah.
make this person look very different. So I think that is plausible more
Yes,
than say, you know, some of these other things we're talking about.
Right. I mean, the cutting edge of plastic surgery, there's always that line on like ethics, right? Yeah, my daughter wants to have the look of like exactly looking like Taylor Swift or something, you know, how like,
Right.
Right.
how young should they be to be able to accept that? And how much can you do? And how much is about money? I mean, because he can do it, it's sort of like that Jurassic Park thing. Like, you know,
Right,
should
right.
you
Should
have
you?
done it?
Yeah.
Should you have done it? Even if
Right.
the tech and the implants and the know-how exist, right?
well, there's also that Twilight Zone episode, Eye of the Beholder, where you know it's making a moral point. You know, at
Right,
the
right.
end, where it's like, yeah, you want to look different, but maybe you were better off the way you actually look. Maybe
What,
you
looking
Mhm.
like
just-
a pig person? Looking like the pig people?
Yeah, but the pig people were considered beautiful.
Considered
so
beautiful.
That's
Those
it
are
was
the norm.
That's
backwards.
the
come
whole point of
on.
the story.
Yeah.
Larry,
but
Larry,
don't you-
that's the whole point of
Larry,
the
are you
story.
telling me you don't get what the episode's about?
Well, if I was a pig person, I would go, fuck, sign me up. Let me get that plastic surgery. I want to look like Rock Hudson.
Larry, you have seen the episode, right?
Yes.
You do understand what it's about, though, don't you? Please tell me.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I'm
do.
genuinely worried
You understand
right
the title of the episode, right? Do you know what that
Yes.
means?
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
It's the ugly
Yes.
duckling is
Just to
actually a
make
swan.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I would.
I mean, come on,
Albert, you've seen this episode, right? You know what we're talking about?
I believe so. Yeah. The whole point is that it's like looking human is not what people want. Is that the point of the episode?
Well,
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
that
It was.
there's,
It's,
people
it's,
just
it's
happen to
Don,
look
was it Donna
differently.
Douglas, right?
Yeah, Donna
Right.
Douglas is like who to us is like drop dead freaking gorgeous.
You see her, and she's beautiful, right?
Right.
And so for the first half of the episode, she's bandaged, and everyone's talking about, well, we hope the operation was successful because boy, was she a dog before this, and
Right.
and so then finally there's the unmasking, and she takes all the bandages off.
But everyone's been seen in silhouette. You don't know what.
You don't see
Right.
anybody else. Yeah, they're all in
Right,
silhouette.
right.
And then she pulls off these bandages, and she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And they're
To
like,
us.
oh well, I guess
Sorry.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
even worse than it was before.
because
Whatever.
in that universe, their look
Right.
is
That's
the norm.
considered
So
ugly.
Right.
if everybody
Yeah.
looked like that, if he suddenly saw Donna Douglas, he'd be like, "Holy shit! What is that?"
Yeah.
You know, no idea. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's funny because that brings up another one, Twilight Zone, called Number 12 Looks Just Like You.
Yes.
Right.
And the
yeah.
funny thing, guys, is so it's a black and white episode. I remember showing these to my daughter, and we watched all these, and this one really struck a chord with her. And she was maybe about, 11 or 12 when she saw it. And she goes, Dad, this is so powerful. And it's basically how the mother looks gorgeous like a Barbie doll. Her friend looks gorgeous like a Barbie doll because they've all had, when they got to a certain age, then they get this change. They can go to this place where it makes everyone beautiful. And
Aren't there like 3 different types?
yes,
of like
there are types of models.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she and so the mother's encouraging her to do this, and her friends are saying, "Oh, this will be great for you." And she's not bad looking. She looks okay. And she goes, "But look, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I think I'm good, but like I am."
Just
And
wants to be
they
herself.
harass her to the point where she finally. I don't want to give it away exactly, but it's really a powerful ending. And for my daughter, who's, starting to mature at that age and, being aware of what she looks like and stuff, it was really powerful for her. And it's another great episode about, it's like what you said, doctor, about, hey, my kid wants to look like Taylor Swift. My kid wants to look like Britney Spears or something. And it's like,
and
now we have
behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me throw one in here. One of my favorite books, and there have been a series of movies that are based on it, is The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
This is this was a book that was written by H.G. Wells. This is like 1896.
Yeah.
And this thing has been made and remade. And one of my favorite versions is The Island of Lost Souls, starring Charles Laughton. It's great. It's 1932, and they didn't have a lot of special makeup know-how back then, but they really did a good job in creating these. Well, the story is a guy gets shipwrecked on an island where Dr. Moreau is doing these experiments where he is using vivisection to take animals and make them into a human type creature. And this guy who is the shipwreck survivor, and his name is Edward Prendick, which I'm sure kids made fun of him at school. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But he, he's witnessing all these animals, and he's just shocked by them. And the amount of torture that Dr. Moreau has to put these animals through to get them to achieve this human state. I mean, it's just horrific, to the point where his laboratory is called the House of Pain. Wow. And there's even a point where he feels like he's achieved perfection with one of these animals, and it leads Prendick to, let's just say, an unintended brush with bestiality. So
right.
Well, let's not judge here, okay?
Look, you know what? Love is where you find it. Right? So,
that idea.
And if my cat was sexier, I don't know.
But that idea of like, there are traits or qualities in animals that are similar to humans, to be able to merge them, like using parts or organs of some type of animal, can that ever work? Combining animal and human species?
That is, in that kind of
in four words.
Hey, look, man, I'm not going to hold you to it, okay? Just give me your best medical,
Look, Albert, we're not going to do it. Okay?
Yeah. I'm getting concerned here. Yeah.
Let me just do the disclaimer here. Albert is none of this is,
top half woman, bottom half something else.
Wow.
We're going mermaid and centaur type stuff.
Sean, Red Dwarf.
Yes.
There's in Red Dwarf, which is this British sci-fi comedy show. One of the crew members is dating a mermaid, and the mermaid comes in, and it's fish top.
Yeah.
And he goes, and his friend goes, I always thought it was the other way around. And he goes, no, that's the stupid way.
Which Matt was also that same kind of creature is featured in an episode of Night Gallery.
Right.
Oh, yes, right.
Kinderman's Catch or something like
that's a creepy one.
Yeah, like he wishes that the mermaid is human, and it's opposite. It's like she has the fish face.
Yeah.
Love stinks.
I would say, the closer you get to the right species, the right musculature, the right whatever, I would say the better chance you have. I think the problem really is that when you're talking about, like, let's say fish and human versus like chimpanzee and, a human, there's a lot less overlap, even in terms of the protein and the way the nerves go and everything, it's just stuff can't be connected that way. When you're talking about organs, we mentioned the pig heart already, but there's a reason those things work, because a lot of the circulation and a lot of the nerves are can be anatomically similar. But yeah, when you're talking about combining in a way that is so blended, like in an Island of Dr. Moreau kind of thing, that is a little more difficult. I would love for that to happen, but the organs itself, like piecemeal, arms, organs, those things are a lot easier once you don't worry about the detail. And you're just like, okay, we're going to knock them down with a whole bunch of immunosuppressive medication. So this thing sticks and takes and whatever. Right. As opposed to the more you put in, the more there is to be rejected, the more that it just won't take. And it gets really bad because a lot of people don't realize one of the major things when you have these organ transplants, the body parts, anything, that immunosuppression leads you to get crazy diseases. You get sick.
No.
Yeah, you get sick from, you hear about these crazy cases of mold, like someone dies of mold, right?
Yeah.
And most of us, we're surrounded by mold. We see mold all the time. There's spores around, but we have a pretty good, we have fungus everywhere around. And, eating like bread with a little bit of mold. I mean, you're not supposed to do any of this stuff, but normally we would be able to be okay with that. But
we
were all bachelors.
I'm throwing my bread out when I get home, man.
Food.
I am throwing my bread out tonight.
Wow.
No mold, man.
So can I ask a question? So when it comes to rejecting organs and taking the drugs that it would take to suppress that, if you have, let's say, a lung from one person and the kidney from someone else, so do you take like a different drug for each part?
No. It technically that could all happen. That's really interesting, the idea of like a double transplant from different donors, but it definitely happens. There's just one general set of medications that people will take. Yeah.
Okay.
Without belaboring the point, it's generally to blunt the immune system and the rejection of it. Like you're matched as close as possible. If it's a relative, generally someone who's the same like ethnicity helps a lot. Like that's why a lot of times people get transplants that are like interracial couple, kids or anything else. They have a very difficult time finding that donor, because you got to find that right match. And when you do, you don't want to mess that up. No one wants to go through another transplant. But
no.
Yeah, no, it's not like this for this heart that's been put in and this for that kidney and this for that part of the liver. It's generally you're just taking stuff and you hope that you don't get exposed to really bad bugs that could take you down. Yeah.
Okay.
What about then like this another big trope in horror films is like the head transplant.
I was just thinking of that.
Oh my God.
Well, the brain that wouldn't die.
Can we talk about that? The brain that wouldn't die. Have you seen that, Dr. Albert?
No, I've not seen that.
That one is basically a
famous
guy, a scientist, he's a surgeon scientist who's a little crazy. His wife, his beautiful wife, gets in a car accident and just happens to lose her head. But he takes her head, wraps it in a blanket, and takes it to his lab and keeps it alive. Wow. Then he goes out basically trolling the streets for hot women to find a hot body to put onto his wife's head.
Transpose it on. I get it.
But her head is in a tray.
Yeah.
And there's little bubbles and her head is kind of stuck in place. And she's here as a kid, I always had a problem because she can talk. I'm thinking, now, if her head's in the pan, how is she? The air, where is it going?
Yeah.
She does have struggles. She goes,
the whole idea, like the whole idea where they said, like, back in the time when people were guillotined, they would like grab the head and show the head to the body. So, like, the last thing still are your own body separated from head. Like, is it impossible at all to keep a separated head alive?
For that length of time, I don't think so. Again, if I were to do it, if I would think how it could be done, I mean, essentially what you need the entire, really the spine, So when most people think of the head, they think, okay, well, we're just taking the whole brain. But again, you're thinking about how the brain looks like. And most people, when they think of the brain, they're just thinking of that squiggly part, what we call the cortex, right? There's an animal part of the brain, which is like you or I, we were just sitting here we're not thinking of breathing generally, right? Unless we're real short of breath or whatever, we're just breathing. There's that part of the animal part of the brain. So when you see animal brains, that is that just does all that. The breathing, the blinking when we don't need to. And then everything funnels down from that gyre and the frontal cortex all the way down through basically the thalamus. And then it goes all the way down through the spine, and it goes all the way down. Then you get all those nerves that go everywhere else. So the problem is you need the entire spine, really, otherwise
spine.
Right.
It's funny because I don't think I've ever seen that in any horror film where they try a head trip.
Right.
You ever see the spine?
Yeah.
Well, if you want, I remember what was it? I think the Predator rips out the entire thing, right? Not to put it back in.
Okay.
But I mean, just for all movement, whatever. If you're talking about just the personality, just the talking, whatever, if let's just focus on that, then technically you don't need anything below the neck. You don't need anything below the cervical area.
Well, let me ask a goofy question here, doctor, since you're here. The cryogenic stuff, people say, I'm going to be frozen because
the Walt Disneys and the,
that's a myth. But but there are people that are frozen out there. And I'm thinking, so when the person dies or whatever, and they go, well, let's take the head off and put it in a jar and put it in the freezer. They actually, do you know if they take the spine? Or is it just
that's a really good question. I read it. Yeah, I read it. I read an interesting story the other day that some of the richest people right now in the world are dedicating, besides money, to charity. And I won't mention names, but you'll probably know who I'm talking about. Some of the biggest CEOs in the world are obsessed with the idea of prolonging life. Yeah. And it's not just by cryogenics. A lot of it is the idea of what I call the Matrix kind of style kind of thing, where you upload your consciousness.
Right.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. That's what they're focused on, instead of keeping the physical part alive.
Right.
The memories, the actions, the personality. I think they had an episode of Black Mirror that was kind of like this, where where they all they kind of upload their consciousness into this, and you don't really know what's going on in this episode, but essentially that idea of, well, it goes into, well, where does the soul exist? Where does personality exist? Like, is it just the brain, or is it the connections?
Right. There's that show called Upload, which also is that too, where like they're living a virtual world. They are kind of dead, but that's interesting though too, because like the idea, I just never thought about the whole thing, like the whole spine and all that, that you need. I mean, it's kind of like,
you need it to get the rest of the body working. But if you just want, because unfortunately, we have patients who, because of a accident, a horse riding accident or a car accident or something, they technically, they're quadriplegic. They don't move their arms or legs, but they're fully functioning above. But they do have the heart pumping. They do have everything else. So again, you go back to circulation, right? Like if you took a head and were able to connect it to a bypass machine, right, that pumps the blood and does whatever and feeds the brain, technically that could exist. That could work. It would be really tough, I'm sure, to get it working the right way. But if you could feed the oxygen, again, like I said, the brain dies first, real quick. Like if you're without it for oxygen for just a couple of minutes by drowning, it's all over potentially. So
okay. Yeah. So let's say you could keep a head alive long enough to do something with it. What about putting it on another body? Like, what about creating two heads?
Because there are people who are the
Siamese twins. Conjoined.
And they're sharing, the body and many of the organs. And so, if there was a way that you could take that brain and let's just say that we could connect all those nerves. I guess the spine is always the hardest part here.
But there's a famous film. There's a famous Ray Milland film,
which is, if you haven't seen it, Albert, you have to see this movie.
Wow.
It's called The Thing with Two Heads. It's from 1972. And so the story is, there's a racist surgeon named Dr. Maxwell Kirshner, and he's played by Ray Milland. And he attempts to preserve his life by having his head attached to an innocent death row inmate whose name is Jack Moss. And he's played by Rosie Greer. So you've got a racist with a black person's, the racist head on a black person's body.
But the idea is that they had to rush the experiment. The originally weren't they going to take off Rosie Greer's head and put
his head on?
I think it was like they didn't have time.
I thought he needed a body. I'm not sure. I don't remember it that
like
well.
it was like a temporary thing or something.
But-
So there's two functioning heads.
And it's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Well, when you see, and there's the shot of Rosie Greer, and he's big, and then you see this head of Ray Milland.
Like, hey guys.
You kind of, and
it's pretty amazing.
yeah. But theoretically, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is that okay? If you remove the head and then move the little spinal cord, could we like attach it to maybe his spinal
That's like
cord?
a giant hole on his.
Yeah, that.
Where is his? That's right.
Think-
Where
think-
does-
If the other body is able to walk and use that spinal cord, can you attach at least the things that would allow that other head to think and breathe and that kind of thing to
Gosh, yeah, that is technically at that point, man, I'm trying to think how this would happen. It's not just the circulation; it'd be tough. It's a lot easier to take things apart and then put them back together. You know, so when you
yeah.
and a lot of times they're sharing. If I remember right, with these conjoined twins, a lot of times they're sharing basic organs.
Yes.
And a lot of that has to be slowly removed apart, but they have very separate other parts. Again, spines and everything else, and most importantly, major arteries and circulation, the carotid, the jugular,
right.
Those sorts of things that feed into it. So I don't know how you would be able to. You're talking about major vascular surgery to join up,
a lot of work.
a heart, right? It's a lot of work,
Very
and I don't
expensive.
think right. I don't think. Let me put it this way: just from one person's heart, I don't know that one heart could have the capacity to really pump that amount of blood,
yes,
right?
He
Yeah.
brings up a
Rosie
good
Greer's
point.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
even Sean, think about it. Even if you're as big, as strong as Rosie Greer, I mean, because he's a big guy when he's
With a
walking.
big heart.
Yes, but all that blood is pumping and stuff to keep him moving. So you're right.
Sure.
You brought up something very interesting. How the blood would have to like pump all through Ray Milland's head. So you're right. I don't know. I mean, he'd need to be drinking a lot of Red Bull or take a lot of like caffeine pills to keep the heart pumping. But then that would get you
It's
exhausted.
actually not good for your heart, Larry.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
I don't know if you've been told this.
thank you, buddy.
Hey, only your friends will tell you.
I
So,
know. Well, if you have to attach Ray Milland's head to my body,
You'll want
to
some
help
Red
me.
Bull.
Yeah, I mean, if you do talk to some of these really up to date, really world renowned vascular surgeons who do, for example, there's the basic. People do connect parts of arteries, major arteries that aren't even replaced by actual arteries. It's not just like a bypass where you take someone's veins out of their legs and then that's what a bypass is. You connect around arteries in the heart. For example, when someone has a bad aneurysm of the aorta, which is life-threatening, you can die real quick if that happens and it's found. And some major Hollywood people have even, died of something like that. You have to remove the entire part of the diseased aorta and you put a mesh. You literally put in a mesh.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, like and it's not an actual artery. It's not an aorta. It's not like people just have aortas hanging around, but you put something like that in that can take the force of that major rush of aortic blood that's coming around and that's constantly going through, because you don't want that thing to split. Once it's sewed up, it's gotta supply the rest of the body, not really the upper head, because the carotid split off from the arch of the aorta before you go around the arch of the aorta, and the aorta feeds everything else. So there are ways, my point is, to link up arteries, and not necessarily like feasibly to link up arteries and make an offshoot that could connect to another artery is my point, So yeah, it's just, you're also working. The problem is with limited space. Like you all know the image of the heart, right? And when I talk to the arch of the aorta, you have that like that major thing that comes out, and there's so many vital artery branches, the carotid artery, the pulmonary artery, all these things that branch off of it. And you have a limited amount of space to work with, So once you start bypassing things and doing different things, you just don't have a lot of room to work with, Yeah.
And there's muscles and things like that too, right?
Yeah.
Get this head to
Okay, so
Stay on.
basically,
Yeah,
you're
not to
saying-
swap over.
Right, right, yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically, you're saying that it's highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also like the brain that wouldn't die, highly unlikely. We could keep
Highly
it
unlikely.
alive in a tray.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, at least
And
we're-
Rosie Greer wouldn't stand for that. So
well, he is a good egg, you know.
he is.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I hate to bring this up.
You know what?
I've been waiting for it, Matt.
Oh,
I've been waiting
knew-
for it.
All right.
This
I
was
got-
coming.
I
It's
got
not
to do it.
number
I
one
got
on
to
my
do it
list.
though, because as distasteful as this is,
I mean, this is
We have to know if it's
Sinister
I think I know.
Surgeries.
possible. We
I
have
think
to
I know
if
what
it's
we're going to
possible.
talk about.
Yeah.
okay. So look, I guess there's no way to really just jump
Gotta
in.
dive in there and say it.
Don't hide it.
Okay, so there is a film, a quite controversial film
Yeah.
called
Sure.
Human Centipede
A
Yes.
human
Okay.
centipede.
from 2009, Dutch film directed by Tom Six. The
Family
story is
Notorious.
notorious film. So the story is deranged surgeon Joseph Heiter, played by Dieter Laser. How do you like those names right off the bat? He kidnaps two female American tourists and one Japanese tourist, played by Ashley C. Williams, Ashlyn Denny, and Akihiro Kitamura.
This could
And-
happen
It could happen, right? He kidnaps them
so far.
and he's going to use them for this experiment. The plan is he's going to sew them together, mouth to anus, to create a human centipede. Well, first of
Good
all,
God.
I'm pretty sure this is not how actual centipedes in the wild are created. Okay. Clear the air with that.
yeah.
But so the rest of the film is really just this
Ugh.
surgeon torturing these people. And then you got like the B story of the cops who are trying to figure out what happened to these people, getting closer to Dr. Hyder's place and trail, and then the human centipede, they try to escape a number of ways, but it's just an unpleasant time.
But
And
he
it's
also
especially, well, go ahead, Sean.
no, it's because he also does something to their system inside so that there is a throughway all the way from.
Mouth. I think I did
Yeah.
say mouth to anus.
No, but he does something to to make sure it flows all the way through, right? Like he also
Look, I don't pretend to be a doctor, Sean. I don't know. I don't know
just
how
wanna know,
human
is it-
centipedes work.
Sean,
There's
do you need to
such
go
a
into more
thing-
detail about this, Sean? I
there's
think
such
it's
a
pretty
thing
clear.
possible. I just want to know if such a thing is
I should have read the book. I know. But anyway, so this is what he does. And so I love this movie because it is,
Me too.
you know what?
You guys are
Horror
sick.
movies are supposed to be horrible.
And shock you,
And
right?
this is a pretty horrible thing that happens.
Yeah.
Now, it's mostly horrible to the person in the rear.
At the end.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say.
It's obviously worse for that person, although the person in the middle is not too much better.
Or the person in the front.
And at least they don't have something.
Well,
The person at the end doesn't have something sewn to its anus. So
Right.
there's that.
Right.
Every cloud has a
Lose
silver
win.
lining, right?
I had a nightmare about this. Do you remember we talked
you
about
really?
this? Yes, we talked about this on another show. And as
I
we're all
tune you out
going-
sometimes.
As
Go
we're
ahead.
all going out, the doctor says, "I'm going to create the monster parts of human centipede," and then I lean over and go, "Put me in front." Don't you remember?
Of course.
Don't you remember,
Well, that's no
don't you remember that?
Yeah.
So, Doctor, if Larry, Matt, James, and I wanted to be a human centipede, would it be done?
We get drunk at a party and
We go, what the hell?
We happen to bump into a crazed surgeon.
It's a
like,
publicity
hey,
stunt. You know,
You have an hour?
it would probably take longer than an hour, but
All right, sure. All right. Just trying to
But-
use my time here.
yeah, it could be done.
How
I-
long
I-
though? How long would everybody like how long, especially
Yeah.
the people in the middle and end?
yeah, because if you're getting
Right.
nourishment from the first person, like how long?
And I don't mean to be gross. but
Yeah,
on a
Yeah.
diet of feces, you can only, I'm assuming, last so long.
yeah. You wouldn't. I don't know what happens exactly with. Yeah, see, I'm not even thinking about the nutrition part of it because the human
Right.
body generally, if you're talking about nutrients, the body can last without food for quite a while. Actually, it's
Really?
the water. Yeah, it actually a long time. It's the water. That's why the IVs are important. Dehydration is the killer. Dehydration is the killer. It's
And
not,
there's moisture though in
right.
that, right?
Yeah, and there is moisture in the let's say number 2 and number 3. Guess
Number 3.
number 3. They have an input and output of something that resembles fluid. I mean, basically, let's cut to the chase. It's, can you survive on feces, basically, right? And like a little bit of urine. Like, can you survive on that? You will get water from it, but you're going to get a whole lot of other stuff too. A lot of people don't know this. Urine is very clean. In a closed system, it should be sterile. There should be, if you get urine straight out, then it's clean. You
don't have to tell me.
Right.
Look
Yeah,
at my
but
skin.
yeah, but it's the fecal matter. That part, that is not clean by any stretch of the imagination. That's why when a surgeon lances the bowel during a surgery, it's like, that's it. Right. It's over. You gotta open up and clean it up and do whatever. Sure. You got E. coli in there. You've got, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Most people don't know E. coli just populates the colon. So
wait, everybody?
Everyone's got. Yeah, everyone's got.
I got a clean colon, sir.
Yeah.
What you're saying?
Sean, please.
Doctor, from personal experience, I had diverticulitis.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a section of my colon removed. But before that happened, the way I found out was because there was an abscess that occurred. I was being poisoned by my own colon because it was
didn't know it.
In my system.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of came close to dying.
Right. So it's no joke. It's it's supposed to be a closed system, and that goes in the human centipede. You create a closed system if you can do it. I hate to be kind of drive it down to its basic parts, but we're plumbing, from mouth to anus. It's essentially plumbing. It's a lot of squiggly plumbing, and it's a lot of weird different ridges and parts. And, the stomach actually doesn't digest. It's more the small intestine, and the colon is more meant for absorbing water. And that's why a lot of like traveler's diarrhea, whatever, messes with that. And if you've ever had the unfortunate thing of being on antibiotics too much, you destroy a lot of that natural bacteria that's supposed to be symbiotic with us, assuming there's nothing else in there like parasites, which is a whole nother thing, but it's basically plumbing. So going back to the whole thing, like, can you live on fecal matter alone? You could, from the water that you would get from it, but the problem would be, at what point are you essentially just poisoning yourself from E. coli, the number 2 and number 3, and basically getting septic from that,
That's what happened to me. I went septic. And
sepsis they'll knock you down quick if you don't get those antibiotics in you, which you could argue that a real mad scientist surgeon would pump people through with antibiotics to see how long they could live that way, to fight it off.
That's interesting. Because
some of these movies
in the movie.
Some of these movies, you could say with torture, they would say, hey, let's pump them through with antibiotics to clean them up, to keep them alive so that infection doesn't take,
Well,
if only the writers,
any ideas. No.
If only the writers of the human centipede would have done their research, Matt, would have known to put that in the movie to make it more plausible.
Okay. Well, to top this off, Albert is not at any point in this show giving out medical advice to you. Let me just
sure.
But I think
don't make your own human centipede.
No, I think we can say don't do this.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
at home.
Of course.
Kids, don't do this.
Right. Try not to eat the poo sandwich. It won't work out well.
No. There's plenty of other things to eat that are terrible.
Well, it's funny because what Albert brings up, our lovely doctor here brings up, I went to visit my doctor to check out my colon, and I brought this up, and he kind of gave me this look and goes, oh, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. There'd be no nutrition there. Yeah, I mean, he almost like chastised. I was like, what is your show all about? You know,
No imagination.
And, no, I said it's a movie. And my friend Matt brought it up. Yeah, I am about
Right. Wow.
So I know. So
throwing me under the bus with your own doctor.
You weren't there, but yeah, he
That's
does
what's
not
odd
have.
about this.
He does not have a high opinion of you, sir. I'll tell you.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, but he basically said the same thing, and yeah, that's like all the nutrition would be out, and
Right.
Yeah.
it'd be
Insane doctors are certainly a horror movie trope because doctors are supposed to be, a figure that,
Ethical.
that you
Yeah,
put,
sure.
Right.
your total trust
Do no
in.
harm. Mhm.
Right. So your greatest fear is an evil doctor, and there's certainly
sure.
no shortage of those
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
in the
Sure.
movies.
in the movies.
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
in real life. But like,
Right.
okay, so what about then like another huge thing in horror, medical horror is the Jekyll and Hyde story. You know, the idea that some kind of serum or concoction or potion can cause physical change in you. You know, like in the case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's bringing out that bestial id, you know, that darker side of you that has no morals, which is kind of also psychology. But like, what do you say as far as, drugs that can kind of bring
Physically change you?
Yeah.
Physically change. I have to rack my head. I can't think. I mean, personality, that we all know the plethora of medications that can uppers, downers,
I'm on one right
antidepressants.
now.
Right. Anxiety, everything. That's all firing, that's all just again neurons. But to physically change in an instant thing, I have a hard time.
It's more fantasy.
That.
I mean,
how about over time?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's definite medicines over time that can, even from a, let's say, more boring standpoint, the idea of hormones and
there you go, of course.
So that's maybe a little not as exciting, but hormones, anabolic steroids, HGH, testosterone. There are things that physically will change muscle mass or lead you to activities that will change muscle mass or reduce osteoporosis and bone consumption and over time. Yeah.
Like a perfect example would be like the character of Captain America. Basically he's a frail guy who's basically Captain America is a medical experiment. I mean, he's injected with the super serum, the super soldier, serum that makes him pretty much instantly and forever makes him this like superhuman guy, just at the peak of his strength, but it's the potion, it's
right. What I see as more likely, let's say, looking towards the future of realism, and this is not really, I was thinking of one movie, it was called, it's not really horror, it's called District 9, right? And
yes.
And
that movie.
Neil, I forget his last name. Blomkamp, South African guy. And the whole idea, what I'm getting to that is I see more realistically, instead of joining up things or, medications that will take affect a modification future, like
enhancement
to the point that things are much more joined, that you can enhance parts of your musculature, you can enhance abilities. We already see that with prosthetics and mechanical legs that let people start to walk.
Cyborgs then too.
Okay, so the $6 million man,
right,
Steve Austin, has his legs, an arm, and an eye all replaced by these bionic appliances. Okay, so the eye, I'm guessing maybe that someday we might be able to do something like that with the eye and even the arms. Let's say you can do all of these limbs and attach them. The thing that always got me when I was watching that show is that, he's lifting a car. Sure, the arm is bionic, but what about the rest of it?
Right.
Shoulder just collapsed.
My back.
Back problem.
And so, you might have a little bit more strength than you used to have with your normal arm, but there'll be no picking up cars or, even the running part is like eventually everything that's joined to those legs is just going to give out.
Right. I mean, at that point, you're talking about full robotic kind of thing. Like you need to replace everything. Right. You got to get, and some of those lifelike robots that are coming up,
Yeah.
You know, I know even Elon Musk is talking about, they're strikingly lifelike. But the problem is, as Matt mentioned, it's when you're picking up cars, doing whatever, I mean, your spine would collapse potentially, right? You know, like you're talking about axial loading, right? Like you'll just go, it'll just pancake, and you'll get literally, we see this in, unfortunately, old people all the time, osteoporotic fractures. Like little old ladies, they get old because their vertebrae start to compress from osteoporosis. They look like they pancake down, and instead of looking like this, they kind of look like that on the X-ray.
Right.
They're literally, they're squishy. They're bending in because they technically have a marrow, and that's how old ladies and old men get that short. So yeah, Matt brings up a good point. Like the ability to have these arms and legs and things that you have to treat the whole thing still as a system, because something's going to fail. You're only as strong as your weakest link with this modification.
So like RoboCop is probably more.
Yes.
Than
right.
Like a RoboCop scenario. Exactly. Yeah.
But, you know, getting back to Sean's thing about Jekyll and Hyde, I thought you were going to bring this up, Sean, but it's like, okay, you take a potion, you're thinking, well, maybe not really change. Well, what about like from the classic 1971 Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, where he's all a man,
sex change as well.
Female. Well, basically, he turns into a woman, a very evil woman. You know, breasts.
Wow.
You know, so his Johnson, it goes in. What does it do? Because, you know, she's out there, you know, and hey, you know, trying to corral these guys and killing them and stuff like that. And but that's not gonna. We're not gonna get.
No, that's not gonna.
Yeah. Those are permanent surgeries. You can modify a lot of things, but yeah.
And that involves hormones too, right? I mean,
that does involve hormones. Yeah, I mean, and again, you know, for a lot of that surgery that's done, it's I think the misconception is when there's a surgery that's done to match the gender with the personality, there has to be a lot of psychological preparation for it, both before and afterwards. I think that's glossed over a lot. It's not just like, oh, here, put this in or take this away or invert that or do whatever. There's a lot of really getting to the brain, so to speak. Is this really, you know, something you're prepared for, you know, to live that way, as opposed to like a Jekyll Sister Hyde where it's instantaneous and you're switching back and forth.
You go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Although I recently read a science fiction story. I'm trying to remember who wrote it, but it was about a future where they'd have a cloned body of you, but they'd mess with the chromosomes a little bit. So they could clone a female or a male version of you, depending on whatever you wanted. And then they would just download your consciousness into this thing. And so that was the way that you could go back and forth. And I thought it was an interesting idea.
Wow.
Well, it's funny that you should bring up clones, though, because
cloning. That's another.
Like, I don't know, from 1978, The Boys from Brazil. This was directed by Franklin Schaeffer with Gregory Peck and Laurence Olivier and James Mason. It's a really great.
Schaeffer or Schaffner?
Schaffner. And it's a great film where Gregory Peck plays the evil Dr. Mengele from, you know, World War II.
Oh yeah, the Nazi
all these experiments. And in a nutshell, basically, in the film, it suggests that Hitler was thrilled to hear that Mengele found a way to take some blood and some skin and a bit of a rib and mixing it together and stuff, and basically creating a clone. He creates all these little cells and implants them in all these women, and they start having all these little baby Hitlers. And so what about that?
It's a ridiculous premise. Like the cloning part, like the idea
part?
that you're going to get a Hitler by just
right.
A lot of different things were at play to create Hitler. Not just his.
So are you saying if we took a little skin, a little rib, a little blood, mix it up of me and put in a bunch of women and they all had little baby Larrys, they wouldn't all grow up to be all like, I got to keep this mints and packaged toy, you know, they wouldn't all be like that.
That's correct.
Because of their environment and their whatever, they'd be all different. There might be some.
I think they would be different.
There'd be some that would just rip the package open.
They might be even more insane than you.
if that is possible. We are talking science fiction, so
Yeah.
But cloning, come on, doctor. Come on.
Okay, so yeah, cloning. I mean, I remember the first time I actually thought about it was during the sort of Jurassic Park time, and that was just about dinosaurs, right? Like,
Yeah.
I should go dive back a little deeper. The idea of embryology, we know there's a difference between twins, right? Identical twins and fraternal twins, right? And how they're created. But what a lot of people don't understand is that the embryology in the beginning, you're sperm and an egg and the whole like birds and the bees talk. And, then you split cells, and identical twins, essentially, they have split off early enough in the process that they form their own individual human. Like my dad and my uncle were identical twins. They looked very similar, but as you know, from other identical twins, they don't always look exactly the same and they'll have different personalities.
Right.
My point is that if I were to clone somebody and, smarter people than me could try and it's my theory that someone potentially rich enough and diabolical enough and is out there and unethical enough may have tried already. And we just don't know about it. I mean, the technology, that's the closest thing that could occur, getting a fetus early enough, an embryo really, splitting it out and literally just raising it as an identical twin. With the way in vitro fertilization is gone and everything else, that is definitely within the realm of possibility that you could get an embryo early enough, implant it in two different like surrogates, and you could essentially create identical twins.
But it has to be an embryo. It can't be here. Let's take a little bit of a rib from you, a little blood.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
because,
I'm getting the record straight here for the medical professional.
Something else. So this is also maybe more in the realm of reality. Also, the same year that Boys from Brazil came out, another really good movie came out in 1978, directed by Michael Crichton, based on a Robin Cook book, Coma.
Oh, I love that movie. That's a great movie.
This is a great movie and really interesting premise. And basically what's happening is there's a hospital with this shady head doctor guy who is during operations on particular patients who are healthy, young, or virile. He's feeding carbon monoxide poisoning into their system while they're under so that they go into a coma. Then they ship off those bodies while they're in coma, and they keep these bodies in coma in stasis, kind of like
a stasis, sure.
Yes. Yeah. And they use it for black market organ selling.
Ooh.
The highest bidder. So they have.
Doesn't that sound good?
Yeah. And Jean-Vive Bujold, Michael Douglas, Richard Rumark, and wasn't black market organ selling? Is that a thing though? Isn't that like a real?
Yeah, they're, depending on who you talk to and which country you mention. Again, I don't want to get in trouble on any of this stuff, but there's been a lot of rumors that, the black market for organs is a thing. It definitely exists,
Like for someone rich who wants to live for as long as they can, like, hey, I got a kidney over here from this young guy.
Yeah. And there is an order and a priority of how you get those organs. Now getting organs does nothing to you if you don't match up the HLA type and whatever. Like in the end, that harvesting of organs won't help everybody. It will only help certain people that match up the right way. So in the
movie too, it was kind of like, okay, we're looking for a blood type O, around 30 years old, match,
right.
That's what it was.
The theory is if you harvest enough of them, then you'll find enough matches so the business will thrive.
Technically, it's a supply and demand thing, because there's enough genetic similarity. If you get the right, again, if you're going for a specific country, you're probably going to get only a certain type of a person, their ethnicity or genetics and whatever. And that's a problem. I remember there's one, this is a more recent movie with Andrew Garfield and Keira Knightley, where it was a dystopian thing where they were basically, I forget the name of the movie, but they bred them for this explicit purpose. Like rich families bred or created these humans, and their only purpose in life was to serve as organ donors for when these people got older, and they would be harvested, and they lived their life knowing that Carey Mulligan was in it too. Carey Mulligan, Andrew Garfield, and Keira Knightley.
How many years ago?
It was maybe within the last 5 or 10 years. I'm just blanking on the name of the movie.
Was it the movie? What was the movie that people said was like kind of like Logan's? Was it called The Island?
The Island. Yes.
The Island.
That was
Yeah.
with
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
McGregor, yes. I was thinking that one too.
Though. It was basically the same story as Clonus.
But that was a good one
Clonus.
too, Sean. Ooh, that was
Clonus
scary.
Horror. It was, yes, basically right. It's you have a whole society on an island that are people they didn't know, but they were being raised.
Bred.
Okay, hey,
Bred.
Doctor, let me ask you this though, because Sean kind of made me think of something. Okay, so it's not ethical, to have a human and put them. Okay, I get that, but I've heard stuff about how scientists are trying to grow like little tissues in a lab or something. Like, can they create like a little lung or a little heart or a little something like else out of other tissue and stuff for transplants? Is that a possibility in the future?
It's like stem cells or something? Or?
Yeah. With stem, I mean, I think they've been able to use stem cells because that's another problem. Thing that most people don't realize in embryology. Like again, in the beginning stage, and stem cells, they're pluripotent. What would you say? They can technically be any cell, right? Like all of our cells have the same DNA, but one is like an eye cell and one is a heart cell, one whatever. So that's why at a certain point in embryology with the embryo, they all have that ability before they get their chemical signals that are really, really weird. And then they differentiate out into that weird looking like fetus that you see in, ultrasounds and everything else. And then they become different body parts. So, my point of that is saying that, if you get something early enough, you can imagine that you could grow an ear from it that looks like that way. And if you're in a bad boxing match and Mike Tyson didn't like you or something, that you could get that replaced with, your with an ear or something else. But with something that's more complicated, again, you're talking the complicated organs, heart, kidney, brain. Again, that's much more unlikely to be able to be cloned on that like level, once you reach a certain point. I have heard really interesting tech about 3D printing for things with organs that, with like hearts, and that they're working on trying to figure out, because essentially a heart is a pump, a kidney is a filter. When you go through dialysis or someone goes through dialysis, you're essentially hooking them up to a massive machine that is a filtration thing. And you can think about it like the earliest computers were the size of a room, and now they fit in our hand, and they're much more technologically advanced. So, and they can 3D print houses right now. I've seen them. They're bananas, So I can imagine a thing where the black market for organs is supplanted by 3D printing that is equally and easily accessible. Maybe not on that like Star Trek like kind of thing where you just punch and like you create like a replicator like organ right there. But the black market exists because people are trying to get specific tissue and organs that are linked up and can be that way. But if you could create them through that method, that would be much more plausible to me. And it have to be a specific organ, like a specific kind of thing. Like certain things lead themselves more to it. Like I think like kidneys and hearts potentially, lungs even. Lungs is hard because lungs is like tissue. It's very, very friable. If you ever held a lung in your hands, which I have, unfortunately, through anatomy class and it's very spongy. It's very, that way. The material is very different.
And they taste delicious.
It's all about the marinade.
Now look, just on the record here, here in the United States, we can't go out and buy ourselves a kidney, right? We can't or if I needed,
you're
not that I know,
waiting list, and
you put on a waiting list, of course. Right.
Okay, so if we're talking about the future, the movie Planet of the Apes, the original from 1968, in that movie, futuristic apes give a man a lobotomy. Okay,
plausible.
What I want to know is, could a chimp or any ape perform a lobotomy? Now, wait a minute. Hear me out.
They talk.
Hear me out.
Talk.
If you showed them where to put the drill.
Well, they're evolved apes, so of course.
Well, but I'm just saying, if you gave a chimp now, if you said, "Hey, look," and you trained him, like, okay, this is where you treats for every step, and you went, this is where you drill, and you put like a whatever, I don't know what treats chimps like or whatever. But if you put like a little piece of candy on where you drill and they just know, I think that you probably could train a chimp to give a lobotomy.
Okay.
If anyone's listening out there.
I think theoretically, I've seen some videos of some very, very, in the beginning, adorable looking monkeys and, chimps that exhibit very complex behavior, even in scams in third world countries where they like learn how to pickpocket, and do different things. And that involves very fine motor skills and other things.
Yeah,
I mean,
Larry.
if you had a human or a patient that was, let's say they're sedated and out,
Right.
You're essentially asking, can a more complicated animal learn how to manipulate machinery to take out part of the brain? A lobotomy is essentially you're looking for the frontal cortex, what makes us control emotions and think and everything else. And I'm thinking other movies like Leo DiCaprio and Shutter Island, and these sorts of things where you're, again, ethically this doesn't happen a lot anymore, but it used to.
Okay, but this is in Planet of the Apes times.
Yeah, Planet of the Apes times where they control everything. You could. I mean, if an ape, my point is, if an ape is talking, as you mentioned.
Yes, it's talking, and
it's
not
talking.
No, and the other thing, Doctor, is that he thinks that they just decided, hey, let's operate on this guy's brain.
I never said that.
Those apes
think
have
of
been
when they
practicing that for years, decades. It's
Yeah.
not like they picked up a drill, going, hey, let's mess up his brain.
If they can ride a tricycle, then we're only so many steps away.
If they can,
you just keep, you know what I mean? You just keep that reward system.
You've seen
every step.
They're beautiful city. They can build beautiful cities. They can stuff human beings, in certain poses. They've messed up people, plenty of people's brains.
So we're not there yet, is what I'm saying.
It's like
we're not there yet. Yeah,
they were like the equivalent of like early science for us, like in the 1800s or something. They were still learning and experimenting, learning how the body worked.
Right.
Albert, didn't they used to do lobotomies with the thing like they went through the eye with like a weird spoon thing? Or
what?
Yeah.
Oh,
James.
I'm gonna have to look back at how the earlier lobotomies were done in the approach.
How they did it.
You can,
there's the movie Session 9, or there's a there's a character that has. There's a plot point in the movie where that happens. It's like there's a character who describes about how it was done. Right. And
describe it, Sean, for James.
Like in the corner of the eye.
James.
That's closest to the nose, like that corner of the eye, just like very slowly insert it in there.
You could train a gym.
Supposedly lobotomized.
I think we've lost James.
See, Albert. James has this thing with eyes. He can't handle it. It's
It's if you take the emotion out of it, if you just think of what a skull looks like, right?
Yes.
If you've ever actually even seen a model of a skull, there's and we all have it. We've had sinuses and things. There's a lot that's hollow around, and then you have the eye socket itself, right? So the eye socket, there's nothing behind there besides tissue, and you get up into. But the problem is you have an area where the optic nerve comes through, and that attaches through to the brain, and so the approach can be done that way without, let's say, doing too much damage to the skull and whatnot.
Okay.
Because it's very
vulnerable in that area. It's very vulnerable there. Yeah. You start, if someone even just punches you the wrong way or whatever, there's things where you get orbital floor fractures,
or if you see a really pretty woman and your eyes go boring.
Exactly. Come back in. Right.
How plausible is that? If your eyes
Well, I know about James's issues with the eye, so I choose not to bring it up because I care.
It's just a very vulnerable area, soft and No,
it's terrible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Albert, if you could do us a favor, we brought up all these things. Could you tell us something that would blow our minds? If there's something that you can think of that like something odd and unusual that we might think might only take place in a genre film.
Yeah.
That kind of is the cutting edge of like, what do you know?
Oh, gosh. you're talking what I've seen specifically, like weird stuff, or
it could be a weird thing. It could be something that's a new discovery when it comes to medicine or surgery.
Like for instance, are there really such things as tinglers?
Tinglers. What?
Okay.
Wow.
Albert, there's a Vincent Price film called The Tingler that was directed by William Castle. The story is basically that there is this centipede-like creature that's in your spine.
Ooh.
Well, apparently you didn't learn this at Stanford.
Right. I guess they didn't teach in this class.
But it's always it's mostly dormant until it's always tiny.
Dormant. It's small. But it gets big when you're afraid. So when you're afraid, it becomes this giant centipede.
That's why your spine's stiff.
That's why you're scared and you can't move.
Makes
and
sense.
the only thing that will get it to release you is to scream. Okay?
Wow.
And so
That's
what
based on
happens is
medical
that
fact, right?
Vincent Price gets a deaf mute woman who can't scream but is scared to death.
And operates on her.
Removes the tingler, and of course it gets loose.
Oh my God, does it?
And
in a movie theater, no doubt.
this is one you should see because apparently, you could show it to your colleagues and go, maybe there's an area of science that we've neglected.
There's even he tests LSD on himself, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it's the first time on screen that anyone takes LSD.
And Vincent Price is amazing. I strongly recommend that. You might learn something.
But is there anything along the lines of a tingler, or anything that's so crazy and weird that you?
Or give us a strange story from you worked the emergency room, right?
I for a while I was almost going to go into emergency medicine, but it was kind of too much and chaotic for me what I was seeing.
Imagine.
And beyond the typical, everyone says, "Oh, I fell over," and by the way, doc, they come in for something else. Yeah, I call it I call it by the way itis. Basically they come in for something and a rash or a little chest pain, and then you get your hand on the doorknob, everything's done, and they're like, "Oh, by the way," they're like, okay, what's up there?
Yeah. I fell into a porcupine.
Right. It's always falling over. This is what I'll say generally, because I'm actually on a funny Facebook group with doctors, and anonymously and without obviously leaving out the private details.
Of course.
The amount of things that people have found up there is extraordinary. There's up the pooper,
the rectum. Come on, you're a doctor. Come on,
scientific on it.
The pooper.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's in the rectal area.
All right.
And
adults, come on.
So there, everything and anything's been found up there, and fragile stuff, very large stuff. Personally, the one I've seen that's the largest up there. You can find in any kitchen. I don't know if any of you guys can guess, but
kitchen chair?
Not a chair, not that large, but a dinner accompaniment, I would say. Like much larger.
Larger.
Think bigger. Think wider. Think artificial made. Nope. Think artificially made. Think container.
Like a jug.
Like
a jar?
Pepper grinder?
A gravy boat?
A little wider than I was saying, but a wine bottle. A wine bottle. A whole
Oh, you are kidding
wine
me.
bottles up the way. Yeah, and when you see
You're not
those
talking about
X-rays,
those little airline bottles.
no. We're talking about like Robert Mondavi, like Merlot, like like a 3.5, 4 inch,
which is a fine wine.
Fine wine, great, yes,
good
yes,
wine.
No reflection on the wine.
No
reflection of wine, but
They make a good product.
and when you see those X-rays, they literally look fake. You could fake an X-ray that looks like that by putting a wine bottle in front of a person and shooting X-ray. But no, it's when things get up there, it's not about, you have to learn how to take them out, which again is the realm of the surgeon. And if you can't get it out, then you got to bring in the surgery and you got to do an laparotomy and you open it up and you take that part out and maybe the bowels died. You got to snip the top part, snip the bottom part, take that out, and then you put them all together, and and this is the important thing, you actually have to send it all to pathology. Anything you take out of the body, you got to send to pathology.
Oh, okay.
And it's obvious what that is, right? But you got to make sure for clarity that it's not some wine bottle looking like cancer,
It's
you know?
not a
So
vase.
Right.
yeah.
So was the wine bottle filled, opened, or was it empty?
In this case it was empty, but
Oh
you
my
could
God,
actually
Sean.
see that. You could see that on the
Oh, okay.
on the X-ray and on the CAT scan. And one story was a half full bottle of soy sauce, and you could see the layering out on the
yeah.
CAT scan of the liquid. Yeah.
Wow.
You know-
what would
you know,
possess you?
Maybe he doesn't have a pantry. I'm just saying. Or she.
No.
It's a storage space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Or a
God.
wine cellar, for that
So,
matter.
Yeah.
so what can we learn from this?
You sell
Don't
no wine
stick-
before.
Don't. Yeah.
Keep it small.
If you're gonna do it, figure out how you're gonna get it back. That's
right.
the
Yeah.
number one thing. Yeah.
Always have an
And again, no judgment, but
No,
Right.
no.
if it's up that way, just figure out how you're gonna get it back. That's the most
Wow.
important thing. Yeah.
Wow.
You heard it here,
Wow.
folks. The
Well-
more you know.
I tell you, I mean, Doctor, you are just a wealth of knowledge here.
Yeah.
Is
And
there
Albert-
anything like that you're saying like that's on the precipice of the future as far as what you think could become reality soon? That you think is close? As far as
Just
any kind of advancement in science or
they were trying to do really crazy things with nanotech, and by that I mean everything from, can we make an artificial neuron? You know, yeah, you can, but that is really technologically very hard. Like one of the thought exercises I remember I had in my cognitive psych class was, well, okay, our soul, you know, the ancients used to think, well, it's going to be just in the heart, but it's really in the brain. But if you had a real neuron that was artificially made, and I took a neuron out of you or me or whatever, and replaced that with an artificial neuron, would we still be us? You know, would we think
Right,
the same,
right.
whatever? And yes, of course you would. What about 2? What about 3? What about, you see where I'm going with this, where
Right,
it's the
yeah.
whole idea of like, where does the soul reside and where does personality reside? If we could take, like I said, the whole spine out and remove that spine in death and then put it in a vat or whatever with the eyes there, and we were able to revive that, is that us? Would we wake up seeing that? Or, you know, like, where does the soul reside? With the nanotech, it's not so much about the neurons. That's not going to come first. What would come first would be the ability to, and I think they are looking at that, you know, to, instead of doing an angiography and clearing out arteries with a stent or something else like that, you could get to the point where you could just target plaque in an artery, and it would be completely not, you know, something really minimally invasive.
It won't be
you know?
intrusive at all. It's
Yeah, it won't be intrusive that way.
Right.
The problem is the targeting. You know, it's like the problem with chemotherapy, the problem with whatever, you know,
Right.
you in order to get things, even little robots, to clean something and basically rotor-rooter you have to figure out how you're really going to target it, as opposed to, let's say, chemotherapy that, you know, just goes all over the body and blanketly kills a lot of different things. You know, it has to be precise. It's got to be surgical. And that's where I know they're starting some stuff like that, but I don't know the progress they've really made. Beyond that, it's really, the major organs with 3D printing and those sorts of things that are, I think, are very, very, very cutting edge. You know, nervous system stuff is always the hardest part, again, because the neuron is the most complicated cell and organ type thing. To create a nerve would be difficult. Nerves can grow back, but they grow back very, very, very slowly, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
it's a very exciting time in our whole medical field, medical world.
Yeah. And I think that you have cleared up a lot of questions that
You
we've
really
had.
have.
And
I'm so glad, man. I'm so glad that you brought the doctor in so we could learn all this new stuff.
Albert's the best. I'm telling you. I miss you. I can't wait for the next time that you are in town. Or we almost went to Hawaii and then COVID shut it down.
Yeah. And anytime. I'm just on Oahu, Waikiki. So
let's do
it. Been here for 15 years. I still come back to LA every now and then, but more to Orange County to see family and stuff.
Sure.
Down there.
Well, Albert, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Now,
Thank you for having me.
You have a website. Is there anything that you're working on to tell our listeners about?
Any crazy experiments you're working on?
No real experiments.
Any theories that the Academy doesn't get into, you know?
I I don't have a lot going on right now. I mean, during COVID, I was doing a lot of like sort of COVID podcast type stuff. And I was thinking, even with this experience, I would start to talk about with my friends about, general medical concepts. A lot of people get embarrassed about, basic things about diabetes or heart failure or, other just, things that they don't want to ask in person and don't even want to ask their doctor. So
Right.
I'm thinking of getting back into some of that, podcasting, other type stuff through my Facebook page or website or something. So I'm on Facebook, The Traveling Doctor, or also I have an Instagram page, but it's not that active, and a website. But if I get back into stuff, that's where I'll be more active. Right now, I'm just doing my own medical normal work, and I don't really have much else going on,
I love your videos, especially during the COVID time. So helpful and informative. Yeah, it's nice to have a sober voice out there.
Yeah. I realize with a lot of the medical stuff, even if it's real life or movie stuff or whatever, people always have questions and they tend to get information from the wrong sources. So
I'll say,
yeah. So
well, Albert,
if I can help, I'd love to.
Awesome.
Dr. Albert Lin, thank you for setting the record straight about a lot of things. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Hey guys, what do you say we give the doctor a toast, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
To Dr. Albert Lin and Sinister Surgeries and Medical Mayhem. Woo!
Yes. Woohoo!
Mahalo. Thank you.
Time for a listener shout out.
Shout out! A medical shout out!
Medical shout out.
Sinister Surgeries. Shout out.
It's not a medical shout out, actually.
Oh,
Okay, well, we take it back.
whatever.
But this comes from a longtime listener, our friend in the UK, Jay Gunn.
Jay
Jay
Gunn!
Gunn is a comic writer and artist, and is a game designer and director.
Yeah,
And is a fellow Japan file.
great.
Nice.
And Jay writes, the world has faced many challenging days since Monster Party launched in 2013.
True.
Mass infertility plagued humanity. Rick Deckard returned for one last job. Akira rampaged around Neo Tokyo. And finally, in 2022, Soylent Green was launched to feed an overpopulated New York.
It's delicious.
Right.
Phew! At least nothing as bad as all that has happened these past few years. Through all the very real ups and downs, James, Matt, Larry, and Sean have never failed to keep us smiling with each genre-bending episode of Monster Party. So as we look forward to hunkering down with our fellow Morlocks beneath a nuclear-scarred Earth, let's look forward to another decade of Monster Party. Kampai!
Yay! Come by!
Come by.
Nice one.
Thank you, Jay. We appreciate that.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that was so good.
That's
Very,
wonderful.
very true, too.
Also want to do a shout out to another longtime listener, Ryan Leisher from Redmond, Washington.
Ryan!
And Ryan is now the proud owner of a Monster Party t-shirt.
Nice.
Which,
Large, I bet.
It is a large, and Ryan actually got to a point where he could fit into a large easily, so he could buy a large. And if that's
Yeah!
good man.
Way to go,
that's
buddy.
not dedication. I don't know what is.
I'll say. Yeah. God, I miss him. We hung with him at G-Fest.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was so much fun.
And Monster Palooza. So
That's
hopefully
right,
we'll see him again soon. Yeah.
Can't wait.
And guys, I have a shout out because I have visiting me right now my brother. My brother is here in my end of the studio.
Wait, you're kidding?
My actual
During the show?
brother. He's been monitoring the show, and he loves it.
Does he? Does
loves
he
it.
really?
Oh,
I do.
he does. And it's great. He's been, we did kind of a little road trip, and now he's back. He's staying with us tonight because he's then going to go from here back to Arizona.
Oh.
And well. Anyway, but he's here, and Larry, we've gone back and forth with stories about our brothers.
Yes,
right?
we have.
And so
Our
I
older
thought,
brothers.
older brothers, have certain rituals that they did with us. Like it's a kind way of saying
They're
the type
mean?
of things that they did. Yes. But so they did some things, nice or not nice, they stick in our memory, and now they're hilarious. They really are. And when I think back on most of the stuff my brother did, it's like an evil genius.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't write any of this
Well,
stuff.
thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I know it. I mean that sincerely.
My older brother has complimented your
True.
older brother for how genius you were at
Oh,
doing
stop.
evil things. Just for what it's worth.
Matt,
Yes.
Matt, does your brother have a name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My brother's name is Mark.
Mark.
Mark Weinhardt.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid I'm responsible for Matt.
Yes.
Oh.
See, I got all revved up and excited. I forgot to even introduce him. But,
All right.
oh well. Anyway, so I thought since we have my brother here, that maybe Mark, is it? Yes. Mark, you could maybe share, just a random anecdote of growing up with me and maybe one of the crazy things that you visited
Okay.
upon me.
So I was always curious. As a young kid, I always heard that fear has to be taught. You're not born with it. So I wanted to do a harmless experiment. So when Matt was an infant, I had this experiment. I had a rubber mask of basically it was a cross between the creature of the Black Lagoon and a pig. So imagine a creature of the Black Lagoon with a pig nose.
It was
Okay.
great. It was a great mask.
Huh, cool.
And so he's playing in his crib, and I decided to do an experiment where I crawled along the ground with this mask, and I came up upon his crib, and I put the mask on, and I slowly rose up above and rose up so he could finally see me at the base of his crib. I didn't make any noise. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I just looked at him. And for a moment, Matt was silent. And then suddenly he burst into tears. And I knew my mother was in the other room. So I just slowly lowered back down and crawled
As if
back
it was
into
like a
the other room.
hallucination.
Yeah,
And
like-
my mother rushed into the room, what's the matter? What's the matter? And Matt is like screaming his head off.
So, Mark, how much older are you than Matt?
I'm 7 years.
Okay.
Yes, 7 years.
So he was.
7
He was
years.
really young. He was like a toddler. I mean,
He was a toddler.
I was in
he,
a crib.
he was in a crib.
He was
John,
an innocent
He's like
child.
probably two years old.
All
You're
right.
asking
Wow.
me? I don't know.
Something-
This is
Wow.
what
Something
But
like
Matt,
that.
do you have any kind of like?
So
like,
I
do you-
questioned like what made him cry, and so it was very interesting in that I realized that the mask had an expression, and apparently humans have a base knowledge of what expressions are, and since this
Yeah,
monster mask had the expression of attacking, it was
Scowl, yeah.
hostile, and
Right.
Matt reacted to the expression of the mask. I suppose if I would have had a monster mask that I could smile through, he might not have been upset.
Right.
But
right.
I'm
Wow.
afraid that the whole monster party and everything go back to
Maybe that kind of
Wow.
like just like
When he
stuck
was
in
2
his
years old.
psyche.
Yeah,
Mark,
it's in
I'm-
my
I'm-
lizard brain now.
Of course
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
gonna freak out. It's a creature from the Black Lagoon with a
Yeah,
pig nose.
but
Who
who
wouldn't
knew?
react to that?
Who knew?
Well,
It's like Eye of the
any
Beholder.
idiot would know that.
It's
Well,
not-
what are
It
you
was only
talking
a-
about, Matt? Now, here's the thing that I want to know.
I was a 12-year-old idiot.
Did you tell Matt this, or Matt, do you go, boy, I have this vivid memory of this creature from the Black Lagoon,
Yeah, it
pig
was like-
face coming up to
Yeah,
me. It's haunted me all these years.
For about 30 years, I would wake up in a cold sweat thinking I saw a creature from the Black Lagoon with a pig nose
Right.
on the edge
You-
of my
you know-
bed.
you
But
know,
aside
really-
from that, it's been great.
I wonder though, like Mark, it was probably like maybe some cheap mask you got like at a dime store or something. But I wonder if Matt, if you knew what that mask was, if you saw it today, if it would
You know what? That's
bring
great. I
back a
think,
memory.
yeah,
I
I
think
think at
just some,
one
like,
point
cheap,
I
you know-
looked for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was one of those, because it was so generic,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
I mean, and masks, they, as Larry, they fall apart.
They do. They
and
do.
this was not super cheap, but it was, it was
Right.
pretty
Yeah.
flimsy. So
Yeah,
the
it's
odds
the-
of it surviving are probably
Right,
slim. But
See, it's funny because with my older brothers, if I asked about this, I would know the math. They probably have no memory. Oh, I never did that. Yes, and I go, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Right,
They forgot a lot of the mean things that they did. They go, did I really do that? Yes, you did. I remember it vividly. But,
right.
all right. Well,
whatever.
anyway.
Well, it's very nice that he's so supportive and he's there and enjoying our show.
Yes. No. And I mean, we're.
Is
like
he a
the best of
Patreon member?
friends. He's not a patron.
Oh, he's
Believe
not.
me.
Oh, well. I guess I know he really cares about us. Thank you. That's great.
He's just understanding like the internet at this point. So let's not. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, he's gonna go back to his palatial mansion in
Right.
Arizona.
And he's going to go back to his quill, and So, but look, he's here. He's been very supportive. I love him so dearly, and I think we need to do this sooner rather than later. But do that brothers episode.
Yeah, that would be
we've
great.
talked about. So, because here's a little sample.
Yeah,
How much fun was that, listeners?
that was great. Did he
you know
bring
what?
any wine?
If
Did he
we
bring
did
any
that-
wine? No.
If we did
It's
that
in my
too,
cellar.
Matt,
Oh,
Matt, if we did that brothers episode,
rye whiskey.
Wait a minute. What?
like I said, if we do a brothers episode, maybe I can convince my younger sister to come on
That'd be great.
There you go.
because
Let's
I
do it.
tormented her.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah,
And James, your
and
sister.
my sister, sure, yeah.
Oh, my
she'll be
God.
up for it, yeah.
I think this will work. All right,
Ooh.
we'll work on it.
We'll work
But
on it.
Mark, thank you for sharing that, and just know that we're going to be hitting you up sometime in the near future for another round.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks
Thanks,
for being
Mark.
so
Nice to meet you.
supportive.
Likewise.
And listeners, if you are interested in ordering the aforementioned Monster Party t-shirt in men's large,
Oh,
Why-
large is a good size.
It is a good size.
it is still available on our eBay store, which is Monster Party Store. Easy to remember. That's the name of it. We also have the Monster Party cloth PPE mask available.
Yeah,
So you definitely want to jump on that. Supplies are always limited.
you can not wear it on a plane.
You know what, though? You can put it over your eyes. And we use it as an eye
Oh, hey,
mask.
that's a good idea.
Sure.
It is multi-purpose.
Oh, so many uses.
Shipping is always free.
Still?
And still, you believe it? And,
With inflation?
I know, crazy.
Everything is
Unbelievable.
costing more these days, but this? No?
I know. Well,
Still
for
the
now,
same. Who loves
For
you?
now. And if you happen to be a Patreon member, we will throw in extra surprise goodies, courtesy of Jason Lindsay and Biff Bang Pow Toys and Ted Haynes, friend of the show and creature creator extraordinaire.
Ted Haynes.
Two excellent
Yeah.
people.
So, what is this Patreon I keep hearing about, Matt?
Well,
Yeah,
James,
what is
James,
it? Come on.
I
tell us.
have an answer for that, actually.
Oh, good.
Okay. Well, Patreon is this platform that if you join it, you will have access to bonus material from Monster
Ooh.
Party.
Oh,
We're talking things like extra Patreon only episodes, audio episodes.
mhm.
We have shows.
Shows.
We have Larry's Toy Time where you get
Larry's
to see his
Toy
collection.
Time.
Great
Mm.
show. We have Monster Party Masterpieces where you get to see the early work, the film work.
Oh,
of us-
great stuff.
of us
Great
all.
stuff.
And James and Sean, their stuff's coming. So
It's coming.
write those letters urging them on. But yeah, and then we also have we're just doling out this raw footage of our trip to Japan.
Oh,
And I'm telling you, boy,
so great.
I mean, it's like a bright light during these times. It's like going back in time where the world
Yeah.
made a little more sense.
Yeah, you're right.
But so that's been great. And then my stepfather-in-law has been editing these classic science fiction stories and putting those things out. And so it's a lot of stuff that you can get by joining Patreon.
Well, that sounds amazing. With all that content, there's no way that's affordable.
Well, James, you just committed financial expectation malpractice.
Ooh.
Yes, because it only costs $5 a month.
$5?
Wait a minute. You can't even purchase a liver on the black market for that
No,
price.
No,
you can't.
$5. I mean, I think a sibling could pay that.
Well, the truth is you can't buy much for that, but it's a very, very reasonable price.
It is. It is. So just $5 gets you there. And all you need to do is you go to patreon.com, you go to Monster Party, you click join, follow the instructions, and baby, you are part of the Monster Party Patreon family.
And hey, let's remind our listeners that we are on social media. Yes, we are hip. We are with it. We are with it. We are. We're hip.
Stop trying to be one of the kids.
Oh,
You're trending.
We are on. Yes, we're viral. We are on the Facebook and the YouTube.
The Facebook.
At Monster Party TV. We're on the Twitter at Monster Party HQ. Instagram also Monster Party
Instagram.
HQ.
Instaface and Tornado.
We're on Friend Face.
Friend Face, of course. Yes.
My face. And please take a moment, write us a review. Let us know your thoughts because we'd love to hear them and we will read them on the air.
And not only will we read them on the air, we'll surgically attach your review to the anus of another review.
That's right. It can be done.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James GONIS.
Keep America strong.
And don't get up to any sinister surgeries or medical mayhem.
Hey, let's have a toast.
Yeah, Matt, do you have any wine?
I sure do. Oh. Hello.
Hey, hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you can hear me now.
Now
Yes,
I
we
can
can.
hear
Okay, I'm not sure what was going on before. I had a new headset going on, and
you. It's all right.
looks like the old one's better. So
You know what? Things
Sometimes,
happen. Ghost in the machine, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes older is better.
Yeah.
It's
As
more
we like to say.
It's more experience. There were times, Albert, things made a while back were in
Father
great
Time
shape.
here is going to give you a lecture.
And now everything's new and shiny and it breaks easily and
you get what you pay for, right? So
That's
Yes.
right. Oh,
Yes, sir.
Sure words. By the way, Albert, just want to let you know my brother is sitting in because he's visiting me.
Oh, great. Okay.
From Arizona. And so
he has a boil he wants to talk about.
yes, we all have things that we're going to hit you with. Yeah. I've got a rash from my balls to my hair. So here we go.
I get asked that a lot.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Yeah.
I'm just
And
so glad.
Speaking of rashes, here is Shawn Sheridan.
Speaking of rashes.
But he's a delightful rash. He's the rash that tingles and makes you feel good.
Yes, makes you giggle.
Yeah. He's a case of shingles that's full of candy.
Ooh.
But here you hey, Shawn,
tasty.
Albert, we got Shawn, we've got James, we got Larry. These, I swear there are no more hosts.
Okay.
Though we could call some people if you like.
No.
This, I think that works for me.
Okay,
I think I got everyone. Yeah.
So now Albert used to be my neighbor.
Oh, okay.
Way back when I lived in we lived in fancy Beverly Hills adjacent.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you finally got rid of
Highlight on it.
You finally got rid of me, yes.
Yeah. Well, I was there for about 3 years. Yeah. I think during residency, basically. And then I
think
leave.
we left before you left, I think.
Yeah. I think it was like just before because I was there till I think June of 06. Yeah, 06.
Okay.
Way back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. And how was Jack at the end?
He was okay. Yeah, he was still funny. Yeah, and real interesting. Yeah.
Funny in quotes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was something. He was
Definitely.
he could be super nice and then turn
Yeah.
on you on a dime.
Oh yeah. That happened to me only once, but
Okay. Yeah.
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah.
None
My
whatsoever.
landlord, he would do this. He lived there. Okay. He had a unit there. And
yeah,
he would,
like right below.
yet he would go into the carport and pee.
What?
Did he really? I never.
He did, yes.
Wow.
Well, would he do it
Why?
into a cup or something?
No,
or-
no. Up against the little, there was a little wall, partition that was
pee
keeping
wall?
us. It
Was
was the
he-
pee wall, yes.
Was he going, this wall is mine and I'm going to mark it?
I'm sure that was part of it. Yeah, it was territorial, but it was also, he also used to do this thing where it seemed like he was looking into another apartment at one point,
What?
Mm.
because I remember coming out and there was a washer dryer thing, in the bottom.
Right.
So we go
right,
down
where we
and
did it.
you do your clothes. And I remember going down there and Jack is looking at the window of another building. And I go, hey,
Mm.
Jack. And he goes, oh, she shut her blinds.
Oh.
How do you like that? Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Inner monologue
He was
comes
something
out.
though. But he was, he could,
Yeah.
then he could be the sweetest guy too. So it
Yeah.
was
He could
it was
be.
a
Yeah.
mixed bag. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
what a character to find in Beverly Hills. Wow.
I know,
Adjacent.
Matt.
Adjacent.
Thanks.
Right.
Thanks for
The-
setting
the-
me straight there,
yeah.
buddy.
The really fancy part. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The first time we kind of hung out, I remember Albert came over because he heard some commotion and came over and we were having cocktails and watching 16 millimeter films. And he sat down and had a drink and the rest is
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
Cool.
What was the movie? What was
You remember? I don't remember.
Oh
come
gosh, I don't
on.
remember. I actually don't remember, but it
Some
was
Albert.
sort of sci-fi.
Wait
it was
a minute.
sci-fi.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
It was-
very like
it was,
mystery
uh,
science theater kind of thing.
it
Yeah.
was very
It
much
was
that.
Yentl, wasn't it?
What's that?
No,
Was
it wasn't.
Yentl?
No.
You're watching Yentl.
Maybe like
I don't think it was. Yeah.
Maybe a
Not a
camera
musical.
f-
It
Was
was,
it-
it was Yentl 2056.
Post-apocalyptic.
The reboot.
Yes.
Was-
She's an
but-
android woman who
But was it a live
pretends to be-
action? It was a live action film.
it
not
was,
a- not a-
I'm pretty sure, or short trailers or something like that. But we had a good time. And
Yeah.
Albert was a great neighbor. He was like when my last neighbor who was constantly complaining about something, then Albert moved in and everything calmed down and it was but
That's great.
I always gave you a lot of credit because the hours you put in, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But
sure.
anyway, so this is what we do. First of all, just in general, our show is real lighthearted,
Sure, sure.
Any time you want to crack wise, sometimes we attack each other, but it's all,
Sure,
it's
yeah.
all in fun.
All in fun.
Now,
Yeah.
now look,
Oh, yeah.
that doesn't mean I want you to go, Larry, you idiot. That doesn't happen in the medical community. No, treat us as if
Oh,
it's like you're
telling
educating
Albert
us.
his job now, what
I
he's
know.
experienced.
Well,
I'm
I
sure
don't-
no one has ever said mean things to you in your profession.
About every 30 seconds. Some
See,
days.
there you go. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
But
No,
anyway,
I'm happy to have a professional here
yeah.
to
Good.
let us
Fasten up
know
the show.
this can happen and this can't happen and
Right,
right.
why.
Yes, yeah.
And- yeah.
Sure.
The other thing,
Sure,
Albert,
sure.
if we're going along and you go, guys, I'm having such a good time, but I gotta pee. No problem. We'll just stop. We're not going to use your saying, I gotta pee. We'll just stop. We can use the restroom
Unless
and
it's
come
funny.
back.
Right.
Well, yes. Well, we're all getting to that age where we gotta go. And you can't hold
Except for
ourselves.
Albert. Okay.
Except, okay.
Let's in perspective
Except
here.
for Albert. Okay.
This is the cast of Cocoon here. So
Well, I basically, as a young child myself, confused trust with gullibility. And I was constantly surprised with how gullible Matt was, but he actually trusted me.
imagine that.
He kept trusting you.
Gee, I don't see what young brother how they would feel that way. My goodness.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when you're like 6 or 7, you don't really have your street smarts figured out yet.
Well, you don't think your older brother is gonna like make you stand on a trap door and pull it out from underneath you?
Oh,
You
don't give him
think that.
ideas.
No,
You
you,
don't
did this
think-
last time. Oh no, I won't do it this time.
You don't think
Promise.
you didn't think, here, hold this candle while I spray this household spray. Let's see what happens. Okay. No. Your brother wouldn't put you in harm's way. Of course not.
Awesome.
Mark reminds me of Holly from Red Dwarf. He kinda looks a
Yes.
little bit like that to me.
The first Holly. Yeah.
Yes. Not the
Is he
female.
does he do shark paintings? Does he paint
I
sharks?
do.
He does. Yeah. Genius. They're
Like
brilliant.
me, or you're saying he's a genius?
He's a genius. His
Oh.
work is fantastic.
I
And
thought I was a genius for remembering that. But
you're a genius too. We're all geniuses.
We
in our
can't
own
all be
way.
geniuses.
all around.
Sure, we can. Okay.
If
Now,
everyone's a genius, then no one really is, right?
not everyone, just us. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I like this guy.
Dear God. Holy fuck. Okay.
And what is this Patreon I keep hearing about, Matt?
Well, Patreon is a platform that if you join it, you will have access to bonus Monster Party. Well, I guess you would say, what would you say?
Bonus
Let me start
material.
the- bonus material. Thank you.
Extras.
It's
and
getting
bonus
late.
things.
Let me start it again.
Yes.
Okay.
Bring me into it, James.
So what is this Patreon I keep hearing
Yeah,
about,
what the
Matt?
hell is it?
I know it's a mystery, but
It's not a mystery.
Shut up. I'm going to solve the mystery.
Okay, please.
The mystery is God. All right, one more time.
Come on, James, bring it home,
Come on,
buddy.
James. Keep America strong.
There's got to be something with human centipede, right?
Yeah.
Or wine bottle.
Oh yeah, wine bottle. Yeah. Hey, anybody got some
listen,
good- hey,
listen.
anybody have
With a
some
nice
wine?
bottle of wine.
Yeah,
And there
yeah.
you go.
Not
Like,
from
yeah,
your
that's it.
ass.
how about this is terrible, but there you go. Keep America strong. And don't get up to any sinister surgeries or medical mayhem. Here, here. Let's toast. Does anybody have any wine? Hold on.
Yes.
I think, Matt,
Yeah,
I think that's
what's the
funny.
sound? You have to do the
Yeah.
sound like.
Yeah, you have to do the sound though.
Can you hear this?
Oh,
Wait. Listen. Can you hear this? Wait.
no.
Would
It
that
has to
work?
be a big. Is that the best pop you can?
Well, I don't know how.
Or-
Well, that you could do. Yeah, I was trying to make it like a real.
Does it
bottle.
sound? But does it sound like that?
I don't know.
That's good. That's good.
Would that work?
We'll edit it
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it a few times. You can
at
use
the
it.
end.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I'll go.
You should. Yeah,
and then
you should have to
I'll
do
go,
Make it.
and then-
Make it last. Make it last.
And then you make the pop sound, and that'll be the out.
Well, yeah, with that, but then you have to go. Oh, at the end, like it's a relief, right?
Oh,
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah.
okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's try it. Let's
Okay,
try
here
it.
we
Yeah.
I like it, Sean. I like
I
it.
like it too.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to push the envelope on this one.
I love it.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, I think
sure.
we're pushing it, but I don't think we've crossed the line.
Push the envelope. Oh wow! Woohoo!
See, I tell you,
Ah.
that's why you get the big bucks.
Yeah,
I tell you.
Woo.
The remarkable
good.
thing to me is not that somebody put a wine bottle up his ass, but that it couldn't be taken back out. Like
Well,
that's
think
so
about it.
big.
Well,
No,
well,
it's so
think about
big. I mean,
It got
You-
lodged
you
in
know,
there.
This is what
if it
happens,
went all the
alright?
way
You-
through.
You put the top in, you put the neck in, and you're like, I got this, right? And then it
Yeah.
goes a little farther, and then the neck starts to widen. You're like, okay, no, I think I can still do this. I think I can. I think I can. And then you finally get it in, and then you're like, well, I'm not going to just go halfway. I'm going to do the whole bottle.
Right.
Jesus.
But then it closes, and it's
Oh.
like, the garage door is
Yeah.
closed, and
Right.
yeah.
See,
Wow.
there's no way. I mean, my sphincter is just too tight. I'd be afraid of crushing a bottle and having broken glass up there. Why would you do such a thing? Why would
I
you
have a
do
very-
that?
For
I have a
kicks.
very sensitive anus, and I cry if someone puts Vaseline on there. When I get the prostate exam,
Yeah.
boy, that's a rough time.
Oh
man.
my God. That's not
It
fun.
always feels like that finger is going to go right through me and just burst out the
Yeah.
other side.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Right
But this
through
was
my
a-
eye.
And on that note,